The emergency room visit started with me sprawled on the floor, courtesy of a perfectly executed, over-the-shoulder throw by a very handsome police officer. It all happened on a dark and stormy night. I was in the ER, plagued by some mysterious ailment, feeling utterly miserable. I was crouching in a corner, lost in my own world, when a flurry of activity erupted. Several police officers rushed in, herding a group of dazed individuals who'd clearly had a bit too much fun. The lead officer, a stern-faced man with decades etched onto his features, barked, "Everyone, against the wall, hands on your heads." Suddenly, I was surrounded by individuals who smelled faintly of regret and cheap chemicals. This was not good. I needed to clarify my situation. Fast. Beside me stood a young officer, his back to me. He was tall, with the kind of posture that screamed authority, even from behind. He had his hands on his hips, surveying the scene with a hawk-like gaze. So I stood up, intending to tap him on the shoulder and explain my non-involvement. Big mistake. Reacting purely on instinct, the officer grabbed my hand, and in less than a second, I was airborne. He executed a textbook over-the-shoulder throw, sending me crashing to the linoleum floor. Pain. My stomach had been hurting before. Now, my arm, my back, my everything throbbed in protest. The young officer was kneeling beside me, one hand firmly, but not painfully, on my neck, his brow furrowed in a mixture of confusion and annoyance. "I told you to stay put. What were you doing?" The group of apprehended individuals, still with their hands on their heads, had swiveled 180 degrees to stare at me, this unexpected addition to their evening's entertainment. Their expressions were a mixture of shock and morbid curiosity. "Kyler, let her go." The older officer, who'd been filling out paperwork with a female officer nearby, strode over with surprising speed, pulling the younger officer back. Before releasing me, Kyler shot me a glare. His face, despite being incredibly handsome, with sharp features and perfect bone structure, was twisted into a surprisingly cute, angry pout. The three officers meticulously checked their head count, comparing it against their forms multiple times. After a few agonizing minutes, I was extracted from the group. "Sorry about that, miss," the older officer said, a hint of sheepishness in his tone. "Are you all right?" "I'm all right. I am never crouching again." "I'm really, really sorry," Kyler added, his voice softer now, laced with genuine regret. It was pure instinct. He handed me my wallet, which had flown out of my pocket during my impromptu flight. Just then, a nurse called out, indicating that the officers could take their charges for a urine test. Kyler looked at me with those remorseful eyes. "Are you sure you're okay?" "I have to go, but I should really stay and make sure you're seen." The older officer called out from the doorway, "Kyler, let's go." Kyler, his eyes sparkling, started to back away, turning back to me repeatedly. "Next time," he said, a promise in his voice. "Next time, I'll definitely stay with you." "Next time?" I nodded, suppressing the urge to clutch my chest where I was sure I'd coughed up at least 3 liters of imaginary blood. "Sure." Later, my mother, Serafina, was rubbing a strangely scented liniment onto my back. "Skylar," she said, her voice a mix of exasperation and concern, "I've never heard of anyone going to the hospital for one thing and ending up with bruises from falling down the stairs." "Well, maybe if you'd come with me." "Don't you dare guilt trip me. Where do you think your tuition money comes from?" "It's from these hands, making dumplings one by one." I felt the calluses on her palms, hardened by years of wielding the small wooden rolling pin she used to shape the dumpling wrappers. "But Mom, Dad's pension is enough for us to live on. Why do you work so hard?" A long sigh escaped her lips. "Some things can't be solved with money, Skylar. If your father were here, would we be going through all this? That's why, if you ever find a police officer to marry one, don't blame me for disowning you." She poked my forehead sharply, then walked away, the bottle of liniment clutched in her hand. The room fell silent. My back, coated in the liniment, felt strangely hot, the heat seeping into my skin. I dreamt of my father, Zephyr, again. He was taking me to the park, pushing me on the swings, spinning me on the merry-go-round. I was wearing a little red dress, giggling with pure joy. Then, a gunshot. The scene shifted to black and white. Funeral music played. My mother, Serafina, clutched Zephyr's portrait, collapsing repeatedly in grief amidst the sea of somber, blue police uniforms of those who'd come to pay their respects. The overcast sky echoed with a child's rhyme. My father is a policeman. He works hard and is so brave. He protects our home and others, always catching those who misbehave. I want to be just like him. Skylar, when you grow up, will you become a police officer too? Yes, I want to be like Dad. I'll go to the police academy, wear the uniform, and catch the bad guys. Kyler showed up at our family's dumpling shop at 7 p.m. It was a busy evening, one table after another. It wasn't until Serafina hissed from behind the curtain, "Skylar, are you blind? That handsome young man has been waiting for half an hour. Go take his order," that I reluctantly dragged myself over, menu in hand. Kyler was watching a police recruitment video. He turned off the screen with his long, elegant fingers and looked up at me, a small smile playing on his lips. His features were delicate, with faint dimples that appeared when he smiled, giving him an air of both strength and charm. My heart skipped a beat. I steadied myself, putting on a professional smile. "What can I get for you?" "Anything is fine." He lifted the fruit basket he was holding slightly, his eyes flickering. "I saw you wearing the apron from the shop yesterday, so I came to apologize in person." One look at the overly elaborate packaging, and I knew it was from old rip-off Riley's fruit shop next door. No doubt, the bottom layer was filled with rotten fruit. Purr, innocent Kyler. Another victim. Before I could refuse, Serafina poked her head out from behind the curtain, her voice sharp. "Skylar, take the order." Kyler's voice was gentle. "Go ahead, you're busy." I made a point of appearing exceptionally busy, avoiding Kyler's gaze. But when he left, he made a deliberate detour to stand beside me, his voice low and soft. The dumplings were delicious. I sensed he was looking down at me intently, but I didn't dare look up. I just felt his presence, tall and imposing, beside me. It was like an unexpected, undeniable embrace, filled with a sense of security and youthful freshness. It left me momentarily breathless. My hands were full of dirty dishes. I mumbled a vague response and hurried away. Kyler came to our shop for 7 days straight. His timing was unpredictable, as was his demeanor. Sometimes he'd arrive bright and early, his toned muscles subtly visible beneath a crisp white t-shirt, his face as clear and bright as the morning sun. "Morning, Skylar. I could eat 2 bowls of dumplings today." Other times, he'd show up at noon, looking weary, with dark circles under his eyes and a hint of stubble on his chin. His voice slightly breathless from a night of intense work, would carry a note of unintentional tenderness. "Just a tea egg and some soy milk, please." "Thank you." And sometimes, he'd appear at our doorstep just as we were closing, peering in hesitantly. "Is there anything left to eat?" "I just got off work." I was certain Serafina didn't know he was a police officer. Otherwise, she wouldn't have given him such a motherly smile when she served him his dumplings. "You're a hard worker, young man. You'll definitely get a promotion and a raise. Kyler, eating your dumplings is what motivates me every day." Serafina beamed. She even gave him all the king prawn dumplings she'd made especially for me, as if she were a queen bestowing gold coins. I listened to their conversation with growing dread, sitting as far away as possible, terrified that the day the truth came out, I'd be caught in the crossfire. But on the 8th day, Kyler didn't come. Nor on the 9th. Or the 10th, 11th, 12th. Serafina, expertly pinching the edges of a dumpling, peered out from behind the curtain. "That handsome young man who used to sit at the door, why hasn't he been here for days?" I was sitting in Kyler's usual spot, staring blankly at my textbook. "I don't know. Young people these days. They get bored of things so quickly. I think he's tired of dumplings." "Tired of dumplings?" I wish that were the case. For a moment, I finally understood my mother. When the person you care about is constantly in a state of uncertain danger, your life becomes inextricably linked to that uncertainty. Though we lack proper uniforms, we are comrades in arms. Dangerous, yet alluring. "Skylar? Skylar." Serafina poked my forehead. "Are you deaf? I told you to bring in the stools outside. It's going to rain." I snapped back to reality, pushing aside my heavily creased book. "You do it. I have something to do." Ignoring Serafina's grumbling behind me, I ran towards the police station, using Kyler's badge number to check 2 nearby precincts without success. I ran to a 3rd precinct, holding an umbrella. The rain was pouring, reminding me, without reason, of the day my father disappeared. I couldn't tell if it was rain or tears blurring my vision. Until I crashed, quite literally, into someone. It was Kyler, in his police uniform, holding a black umbrella. We were pressed close together. The rain softly illuminated his face. He looked down at me, his eyes shining with a gentle, concerned light. "What's wrong, Skylar? You seem so frantic. Is everything all right?" "No, nothing." Seeing him standing there in one piece made me strangely angry. I turned to leave. "I was just passing by." "Don't." As if suddenly realizing something, Kyler grabbed my wrist. I lost my balance and stumbled back into his embrace. Kyler let out a muffled groan, pushing my head away gently, rubbing his chest where I'd collided with him twice in 1 minute. He gave a weak laugh. "Could you come with me to the hospital?" We walked to the hospital near the police station, sharing his umbrella. I went to pay his bill, taking his ID card. Beside his handsome face, his name, Kyler Hung, age 22. Probably just graduated from the police academy. A year younger than me. And he kept calling me little sister. I'd let him get away with that. When I returned, Kyler was sitting on a chair, lost in thought. His dark blue police uniform, his fair skin, his upright, almost austere demeanor. It reminded me of a line from a poem, "White horse, silver spear, a dashing young man." I handed him a bottle of water and sat beside him. "Officer Hung, I'm a year older than you. You should call me older sister." I expected him to protest. I was ready with a comeback. But he just blinked at me, then softly said, "Older sister," and gently rested his head on my shoulder. My heart melted. "Does it hurt?" His long eyelashes fluttered. "I'm studying medicine. Do you want me to take a look?" "No." A pause. I asked, "The reason you haven't been to the shop these past few days, is it because you were injured?" He gave a soft then paused before speaking. "We were on a raid the other day, busting a gambling den. I cornered one of the guys in a dead-end alley. But when I pulled out the handcuffs, he dropped to his knees. He was crying, saying his child was seriously ill, and he'd turned to gambling out of desperation." "So you went soft?" "Yeah." I hesitated for a moment. Just that one lapse in concentration, and he slashed me across the chest with a knife. Luckily, the other officers arrived, and he didn't get away. "Did you get in trouble?" "No." Captain Zhang said all young officers have to go through that test of humanity. "We see more ugliness in a month than most people see in their entire lives." "So, are you scared?" "No. I don't know how to handle it next time." "I used to know an old police officer," I said. "He told me, when you stop overthinking and just focus on your inner core, things won't seem so difficult." Kyler rested his head on my shoulder for a while longer, then gave a thoughtful He straightened up, looked me in the eye, and asked, "Is that officer still in the force?" "Yes," I said, smiling at him. "He said that someone has to do the dangerous jobs in this world. If the police all back down, then the country and the people will be even more at risk." We sat there, just outside the emergency room. 2 weeks ago, we'd met here for the first time, in a rather comical opening scene. Neither of us could have imagined that, 2 weeks later, so much between us would be different. The nurse unwrapped the bandage. Kyler's wound was just below his pectoral muscle, a diagonal slash that had created a small, separate corner of his first abdominal muscle. The nurse applied a medicated powder to the crimson wound. He only winced slightly, but his long eyelashes fluttered like tiny fans. Both fierce and endearing. A middle-aged female doctor came over to examine the wound carefully. She typed some prescriptions into the computer. "Officer Hung, the wound is healing well. Your girlfriend can change the dressings for you from now on." Before I could say anything, Kyler's furrowed brow smoothed out. "Great. Give me extra." The doctor and I both stared at him, silently forming question marks. "If I have more medicine, it will heal faster." When we got back from the hospital, the rain had stopped. But Kyler insisted on driving me home. "I want some dumplings and I miss Serafina." I said, "Try telling my mother you're a police officer and see if she's still so welcoming." Kyler rested his hand on the steering wheel, thinking. "Then I just won't tell her for now." I was curious. "Aren't you going to ask me why my mother dislikes police officers?" Kyler said, "When you're ready to tell me, you will." He paused, then a mischievous grin spread across his face. "For example, I can tell you're really eager to change my dressing." "Shut up. I'm dying to change your dressing." Then who was it whose ears turned red when they saw my abs? No. Not me. Not me. Not me. Older sister, I always got an A+ in psychology. Are you sure you want to lie to me? I couldn't win. I punched his arm lightly. Why are you so annoying? He dodged playfully. I'm driving, older sister. Don't be silly. As soon as we turned into the alley, I saw the plastic stools I was supposed to bring in scattered haphazardly in front of the shop. The red sign standing at the entrance had been smashed to pieces. Old rip-off Riley was standing at the entrance, holding a stick. What are you doing? I rushed over, wrapping my arms around Serafina, who was standing behind the counter. Kyler followed, his tall frame positioned between us and Riley. Riley, brandishing a thick wooden stick, gestured arrogantly. You should ask your mother that. Why did she steal my stools? Serafina, her eyes red-rimmed, explained, It was raining so hard, I grabbed the wrong ones in a hurry. Just tell me, and I'll return them. Before she could finish, Riley slapped the stick against his palm. It doesn't matter what you say today, you stole them. Kyler stepped forward, his voice sharp and commanding. Watch your mouth. Riley sneered. Who are you? They're both bad news, you. Riley, listen to me. Your brother committed robbery. He got what he deserved. My father died in that same operation. Why do you think it's our fault? I shouted at Riley, defending myself, but Serafina grabbed my arm. Skylar, don't. All right. You listen to me too. As long as I'm alive, you two won't have a moment of peace. Riley's threat was cut short by Kyler. Kyler, wearing his white t-shirt, pulled out his police ID from his uniform pants pocket, holding it up in front of Riley's face, and swiftly snatched the stick from his hand. Police. If anything happens to these two, I'll be taking you in. When on duty, Kyler's upright posture exuded a powerful aura. His resonant voice carried a weight of authority. Riley deflated like a punctured balloon. Officer, I was just trying to scare them. He turned and scurried away. I hugged my mother tightly. Without realizing it, my chest became damp with her silent tears. Kyler stood there, letting out a sigh. His pant legs, tucked into his police boots, led to his straight, long legs that moved towards me, step by step, until he was standing behind me. That sense of youthful freshness and security enveloped me once more. I felt his little finger gently touch mine a few times, a comforting gesture. It was so gentle and intimate, it reached deep into my heart. Each touch felt like it brushed against my soul. The evening breeze, carrying the scent of the recent rain, swept through the shop, whispering a sweetness I'd never known before. In the days that followed, perhaps not wanting to upset Serafina, Kyler didn't come to the shop. But he often sent me messages, calling me older sister and Skylar, older sister, in a way that made his clear, pleasant voice seem to be playfully whispering in my ear. But I stubbornly refused to reply. A guy like Kyler, there would be many girls after him. That hint of cool aloofness in his smile could easily lure girls into a beautiful dream, and his dashing demeanor shone like the badge on his shoulder. I thought, if I just ignored him, he'd forget about me soon enough. On my birthday, the shop closed early. Serafina made a lot of my favorite dishes to celebrate. I pretended to close my eyes and make a wish, sneaking a peek at my mother. The candlelight cast a warm, flickering glow in the darkness, illuminating Serafina's face as she tried to smile, but her eyes glistened. I really wanted to know. Why did we have to relive this pain every year? On my 10th birthday, Mom and I waited for Dad to come home so we could blow out the candles together. But the phone rang and a voice said, "Sister-in-law, my brother. He's gone." She was stunned for a moment, then covered her face and sobbed uncontrollably. Outside, thunder and rain raged. I stood by the cabinet bewildered. The curled telephone cord held the receiver, swaying back and forth, like a pendulum that could snatch life away at any moment. That evening, before closing the shop and going home, I went to retrieve the sign outside as usual. I found a small gift box next to it. Inside the pink wrapping was a 2007 edition Star Wars Death Star model. When my father died, a media report, trying to emphasize our father-daughter bond, fabricated a story that this was the gift I'd most wanted, but my father hadn't had time to buy it for me. That was the first time I'd heard of this model. I'd always hated that sensationalized report, and by association, I'd hated the sight of this model. But now, as the moonlight gently bathed the slightly yellowed box, made 14 years ago, time flowed silently. I realized, for the first time, that the armor I'd worn for so long was actually quite heavy. In my hand, a blue card. Kyler's handwriting was elegant and strong. I protect the world, and I protect you. That declaration, dispersed into the night wind, left me speechless for a long time. The next day, my thesis advisor asked me to bring my proposal to her house. The door opened, and Kyler and I were face to face. After a moment of stunned silence, I lowered my voice. Kyler, what are you doing here? His handsome eyebrows furrowed, a picture of innocence. What am I doing? I told you, I'm not interested. Why aren't you interested? I don't want a police officer boyfriend. It would upset my mother. You're studying forensic medicine. Wouldn't becoming a police officer yourself upset her even more? What gives you the right to spy on me and to show up at my professor's house? Kyler, is that Mom's student? My advisor's voice came from behind Kyler. Mom? Kyler was my advisor's son? I finally noticed that Kyler was wearing a set of comfortable gray loungewear. Kyler, why don't you invite her in? My advisor's face appeared behind Kyler's. Her gaze darted between the two of us, clearly sensing the tension. She stopped mid-sentence. Am I interrupting something? Professor, I'm here to give you my thesis proposal. I barged past Kyler, forcefully bumping his arm with my shoulder. I stomped forward, barefoot and furious. The floor is cold. Suddenly, I felt a warmth around my waist. Before I could react, Kyler had scooped me up from behind, lifting me effortlessly. I found myself standing in a pair of clean, gray slippers that still held Kyler's warmth. The crisp scent of his body wash lingered in the air, left behind by his passing. The heat in my ears intensified. I caught my advisor's surprised and speculative gaze. I'll be in the study waiting for you, she said, then turned and left, a knowing smirk on her face. Are you all right? Is your injury healed? You're finally showing some concern? Kyler closed the refrigerator door, his long, pale fingers holding a bottle of sparkling water. He turned and walked towards me. The thin gray sweatpants hung loosely on his hips, the cuffed ankles revealing a glimpse of his pale, slender Achilles tendons. With each step, the white drawstring at his waist swayed back and forth. My gaze drifted downwards and, images flashed through my mind. The toned physique of a young man who clearly worked out made me blush, my breath catching in my throat. Gray sweatpants equals black silk stockings. The internet sisters were right. Skylar, Kyler said, a low chuckle escaping his lips, a hint of mischief in his smile. In such a tense and serious moment, could you please try not to think about other things? I snapped back to reality, the water I'd been about to swallow making an embarrassing gulp sound as it went down. Kyler twisted off the cap and handed me the bottle. I glanced at the closed study door, then asked Kyler cautiously, is my advisor your mother? Kyler sat down beside me, resting his arm on the back of the sofa behind me, his clear eyes fixed on mine. No. I adopted her as my mom, just to chase after you. Can you be serious for once? I heard my mom mention that there was only one female student in your forensic medicine class this year. I never expected it to be you. Kyler raised an eyebrow, his expression serious. Older sister, I think I like you even more now. What should I do? Damn my weakness for good looks. Kyler's eyes were sparkling, his voice clear and filled with sweet words. He was way too good at this. I was speechless. He lowered his head, his fingers, with their well-defined knuckles, gently traced my fingertips, also stirring my heart. Give me a chance, older sister? My heart was touched uncontrollably. Before I could speak, I felt a cool touch on my fingertip again. Kyler said, I'm not asking you to say yes now. Like I said, you can tell me whenever you want. Do whatever you want. There's no rush. I'll wait for you. I gave him a grateful smile. Does Serafina know you're studying forensic medicine? He asked. No. Mom only knows I'm studying medicine. You'll be working soon. You need to think about how to tell her. Kyler patted my shoulder, then stood up, his 180 centimeters frame towering over me. 24/7 standby, older sister. My advisor's study was filled with photos of Kyler, from his childhood to the present. Him in his taekwondo uniform, riding a horse, practicing archery, standing on various award podiums at the top-ranked police academy in the country, participating in police academy tactical training, aiming a gun, reciting the police oath. His handsome face, in every photo, showed a focused gaze, so striking it looked like he was filming a police drama. Kyler's dream has always been to be a police officer, my advisor said, noticing me staring at Kyler's photos. You both know what you want to do. She smiled and gently touched my head. Skylar, many girls come to our house to see Kyler, but he's always so cold and aloof. It turns out our Kyler does like girls. My face flushed crimson. My advisor's hand lingered on my cheek, pinching it playfully. My son has good taste. I didn't know if Kyler had good taste, but I was panicking after being tricked into a blind date. A handsome young banker in a suit sat opposite me, smiling warmly. I heard from Serafina that you're studying internal medicine. Internal medicine, surgery, gynecology, pediatrics. I study everything you know, plus forensic medicine. The hand across from me froze, then immediately set down the teacup I'd just touched. He quickly realized his rudeness and stammered, "I'm sorry. If you have something else to do, you can go," I said, amused by his flustered state. No, it's just. I wasn't mentally prepared. The banker smiled sheepishly, leaning forward. I've seen forensic files. It's super cool. But isn't it scary for a girl to be a forensic pathologist? What's there to be afraid of? We're seeking justice for them. If they have spirits, they'd be protecting us. Under his questioning, I enthusiastically educated the citizen on the basics of forensic science. Suddenly, I felt a warmth beside my ear. I turned my head and my eyebrow bumped against Kyler's high-nose bridge. He was sitting in the chair next to me, resting his head on my shoulder. "Older sister," he greeted. My mind went blank. For a fleeting moment, I felt like I'd been caught cheating. "Miss Chu, is this your brother?" The banker looked at us with a questioning gaze. Before I could react, Kyler, quick-witted as ever, figured it out. He sat up straight, his voice cold. "Are you two on a blind date?" Under the light, his eyes were swirling with anger, confusion, and a hint of barely perceptible hurt. There are some people, every time you see them, a voice inside you screams, "It's over. Give up. Surrender." Why is it that he can just stand there, doing nothing, and you'll like him? He smiles, and fireworks explode in your heart. He looks hurt, and you want to give him all the candy in the world. Kyler was the one who had that effect on me. I could control myself, stay away from him, try to appear nonchalant when I saw him. But the moment his face showed even a hint of hurt, my heart would melt like a giant marshmallow on a snowy mountaintop, my chest would feel a rush of warmth, and I'd be a complete puddle. I looked into his eyes. "Kyler, my mother made me come." Kyler lowered his head, a small smile playing on his lips, then raised his eyes to meet mine. "So you never have your own thoughts? Maybe I was wrong. You're not the person I thought you were." It wasn't until his handsome figure, clad in work pants, disappeared around the corner of the mall escalator that I snapped out of it and realized I needed to chase after Kyler. The banker grabbed my wrist. "Miss Chu, can I have your contact information?" I clutched my bag, rushing towards the exit. "I'm sorry, I prefer superheroes." Kyler ignored me. He didn't reply to my messages, didn't answer my calls. The clock hand moved from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. until all the signs in the alley were switched off with a click-clack. Kyler still ignored me. I sat on the back of Serafina's scooter, listening to her nagging as we rode home. The night wind from the river blew against my face. Kyler still ignored me. Late at night, unable to sleep, I went to the fridge and grabbed a can of Coke. The tiny bubbles burst happily in my mouth. Kyler still ignored me. With the Coke in my mouth, I thought, "It seems my handsome young man is really angry." When I woke up the next morning, I stared at the ceiling and thought, instead of torturing myself like this, I should sneakily go and see what Kyler is up to. I rummaged through my closet, choosing a short white dress with a daring off-the-shoulder design that revealed my pale left shoulder. Avoiding Serafina, who was washing her face while watching a live shopping stream, I slipped out, shutting the door behind me, silencing my mother's roars. "Skylar Chu, what are you doing up so early? Did that young man, Zhang, from your last blind date contact you?" The door opened. A police meeting? 5 or 6 handsome, crew-cut young men stared at me. Indeed, all the good-looking guys were handed over to the country. My heart was pounding uncontrollably. "See anyone you like? I can introduce you." Kyler, standing behind the door, sauntered over to me, wearing another pair of those thin, gray sweatpants that made me lose all sense of reason. Saliva, again unbidden, filled my mouth. "I'm here to see my advisor," I said, holding up the file folder. "My mom went out to buy groceries." Kyler raised an eyebrow, glancing reluctantly at the guys behind him. "Do you want to come in?" Of course, I want to come in. I pushed Kyler aside. The outline of his abs was surprisingly clear and firm even through his white t-shirt. I momentarily forgot to remove my hand. Kyler, above me, didn't seem to mind. He even placed his hand lightly on my waist, shielding me from the gazes in the room. He reached out with his long, pale hand and gently adjusted the shoulder strap of my dress. In the gentle morning breeze, the crisp, minty scent of his body mixed with the warmth of alcohol, creating a kind of milky dominance. "What? Are you jealous?" I asked. "No, your bra strap was showing." His voice was soft and husky, like a feather brushing against my ear. It tickled. The guys were watching a live soccer match in the living room. Judging by the empty beer bottles on the floor, they'd probably been watching all night. If I'm not mistaken, this is the one who conquered the cold, aloof heartthrob of our city's police department, the one who made our officer Kyler decisively reject becoming the mayor's son-in-law, the one Kyler calls the incredibly smart and unbelievably cute older sister. One of the guys, his chin resting on the back of the sofa, smiled at us. "Of course not. She's just my mom's student. She even went on a blind date yesterday." Kyler shot me a cold glance. "Go wait in the study. My mom will be back soon." I quickly sat down on a nearby sofa. "Isn't there room here?" "Wait. Professor Liu's student? Forensic medicine." With beer still in my mouth, I nodded, earning even more starry-eyed gazes from the police officers. The guy across from me hopped over, extending his hand. "Winston Wang, Technical Investigation Unit. We might be working together in the future." I glanced at Kyler. He was drinking beer, the flickering light from the projector casting shadows on his expressionless profile. "So, he's giving me the silent treatment, huh?" I smiled sweetly at Winston, my voice deliberately, exaggeratedly. "Let's add each other on WeChat later." "Add me too." I grew up watching TV dramas. I have a soft spot for forensic pathologists. A bunch of phones, displaying their add friend interfaces, flashed in front of me. "Don't be in such a hurry. I'll add you one by one." Just as I opened WeChat, the cookie in my mouth was suddenly snatched away and tossed onto the coffee table. A pair of dry, warm hands cupped the back of my head, and two soft, cool lips covered mine. The clean, minty scent mixed with the sweetness of alcohol, gently swirling around us. Sweetness melted in my heart. A dizzying wave of happiness surged through my skull. The universe became a cloyingly sweet candy. Our lips slowly parted. My vision was filled with the gentle, unspoken desire in Kyler's eyes, like the scattered stars in a clear night sky. His toned arms rested on the back of the sofa beside me, leaning in, creating a confined embrace. "Are you guys going to watch the live broadcast?" Kyler's gentleness remained, but his eyes flickered, and his voice was cool. The stunned silence was broken by a ripple of unease. The game ends in 10 minutes, Winston said from the side. "Then, let's go." Kyler easily scooped me up in a bridal carry, even thoughtfully protecting my short skirt hem. My face flushed with embarrassment. I buried my face in Kyler's neck, catching glimpses of the O-shaped mouths of the others. As soon as we entered the room, Kyler pressed me against the door, slowly bending down and kissed me again. Dopamine surged wildly in my brain. I lost the ability to think. Kyler was way too good at this. A cheer erupted from outside, celebrating a goal. Kyler tightened his arms around my waist, the kiss not stopping. I regained a sliver of sanity, wanting to push him away, but the hands I'd placed on his shoulders had gone limp. But Kyler sensed it. He gently released me, looking into my eyes. "What's wrong?" All my strength was resting on his arms around me. "I'm angry." Kyler's smile was slightly indulgent. "You flirt with every handsome guy you see, and you're angry with me?" I pouted and mumbled, "Food and sex are human nature." He took my hand in his voice low and seductive beside my ear. "Then does older sister want to eat me?" Under Kyler's gaze, my ears felt like they were about to burst into flames. "There are people outside." His kisses fell, soft and insistent. "Don't worry about them." Sinking into the white pillows, I touched Kyler's handsome face as he leaned over me and said something I deeply regret later. "I have physical fitness tests in college too, you know." Kyler slowly bent down, his eyes filled with amusement. "Then I'll have to be careful." The truth proved that I'd talked a big game. The top graduate of the nation's top police academy was unbeatable. I was just about to escape when I was pinned down again. Kyler's handsome face was incredibly gentle, incredibly alluring. "Can't handle it, older sister?" I couldn't help but swallow again. Let's have a rematch later. I hear my professor coming back. So, Kyler's kiss landed. Is her cabbage being eaten by the pig, or is the pig eating her cabbage? No. I pushed Kyler away. The image of my advisor's serious face pulled me back from the brink of surrender. My graduation was still pending. I couldn't let her think I was trying to get ahead by seducing her son. Kyler leaned against the headboard, a playful smile on his lips. You're really leaving? His muscles were firm, his skin pale and youthful, looking almost dewy. Seeing the scene, tears welled up in my mouth. But I still gritted my teeth, put on my clothes, and fled. Skylar Chu? As soon as I entered, Serafina threw the cup in her hand at the door behind me. A shard flew past me, and I felt a sharp pain on the back of my hand. Mom, what's wrong? Don't call me Mom. I stood beside the sofa, like I always did when I'd done something wrong, my hands hanging by my sides, looking at my mother. Are you studying forensic medicine? Are you involved with Officer Kyler? My mother's eyes bore into me, her voice trembling. Skylar, it's one thing to like a police officer, but to study forensic medicine and become one yourself? And I'm the last to know. Do you have any respect for me at all? Mom. I walked over, knelt down in front of her, and took her hands. Don't call me Mom. I don't have such a capable child. Serafina yanked her hands away. Mom, being a police officer has always been my dream. So, Skylar, I raised you all these years, and you've lied to me for so long. When will you and your father stop hurting me? A tear rolled down and landed on the back of Serafina's hand. I understand, Dad. I want to be a good police officer like him. Mom, do you really hate Dad as much as you say? I remember Dad saying that on my birthday, Mom would make dumplings for us. I touched the calluses on Serafina's palms. So, after Dad died that year, you quit your high-paying job. You spend every day making dumplings, celebrating my birthday every year. Were you waiting for Dad to come back? Serafina's tears choked in her throat. Shut up, Skylar. Mom is someone who never shows weakness to others. Only to Dad, Mom showed admiration. Mom, if Dad hadn't been that brave and righteous hero, would you have fallen in love with him? I remembered my father. He was young and handsome, with faint dimples when he smiled. But when he drew his gun, his expression was focused and handsome, radiating a captivating aura. In the midst of my questioning, Serafina hesitated for a long time. Finally, she buried her face in my embrace and sobbed uncontrollably. She cried for a long time, as if releasing all the pent-up longing and grief. I knew we were the same kind of people. Even if the moment of beauty was as fleeting as a white epiphyllum, blooming only once in a lifetime, we were willing to let our hearts beat for it until the very end. When Dad was alive, he spoiled Mom, treating her like a princess who didn't have to do anything. When Dad was gone, I always remembered his words. Skylar is going to be a policewoman one day. She should start by practicing protecting her mother. I patted Serafina's back, comforting her. Don't worry about me being in danger. Isn't working 996 dangerous? Isn't commuting to work dangerous? Isn't running a restaurant dangerous? Behind the police are the country, justice, and the people. Such a grand light won't be easily extinguished by a small group of darkness. I'll protect myself and I'll protect you. After a while, Serafina lifted her head from my embrace. From now on, you have to tell me everything. No more secrets, Skylar. I kissed Serafina's forehead. Of course, my dearest Mrs. Joe. Kyler and his colleagues occasionally came to the shop to eat. While eating, he'd stare at me with starry eyes as I walked around, or he'd hold my hand and say, "Can I order the young lady?" His colleagues would tease, "Does the dumpling shop sell dog food now?" Or he'd get close to Serafina and say, "I love your dumplings the most." Officer Kyler was as sweet as honey. His proper, refined demeanor, both confident and clear, made everything he said sound genuine. Serafina had long been charmed by him, even pretending to be angry. "If I don't make them for you, will your mother fail Skylar's thesis?" Kyler would wrap his arm around my waist. "If you don't make them for me, I won't tell my mother. I'll help Skylar write her thesis." Kyler's physical fitness and academic performance were top-notch, so he definitely had the ability. Serafina pursed her lips, smiling. "When Skylar graduates, I'll retire and travel the world." Kyler placed his hand on Serafina's shoulder. "Then we won't let Skylar graduate." "I can't bear to." It was at that moment that old rip-off Riley burst through the door. Miles. Miles. His urgent cries filled the air. Miles was Riley's only son. He often played outside the shop after kindergarten, but Riley never let him come inside our shop. What are you shouting about? Kyler pulled Serafina and me behind him, watching Riley warily. Officer, and you? My Miles is missing. He waved his hands helplessly, his eyes red-rimmed. I just went inside to pack some fruit for a customer, and he disappeared. It was rush hour, the alley in front of the shop was jammed with cars, and we were at the end of the alley, which led to a busy intersection with 3 elevated highways. A 5-year-old child wandering through that kind of traffic, it was terrifying to even imagine. Serafina and I were still frantically worrying when Kyler calmly asked about the time the child went missing and the places he usually went. He told Serafina to stay at the shop entrance while he and Riley split up to search for the child. Kyler and I headed towards the park, walking until we reached the elevated highway, where we could see the park's Ferris wheel. The sunset cast a brilliant glow on his face, his high, straight-nosed bridge dividing his face into light and shadow. Despite the strong wind on the highway, Kyler maintained a perfectly upright posture, the standard bearing he'd learned at the police academy, showing that nothing could sway his inner resolve. Me? Just relying on ideals, would I become a good police officer? But the next second, I found my answer. A car on the opposite side switched to high beams, and I suddenly saw little Miles emerge on the opposite lane. He also saw me, happily reaching out his chubby little hands and running towards me. Don't move. I screamed at the top of my lungs. But he couldn't hear me. He continued to wobble his way onto the road. Almost instinctively, I rushed forward, dodging through several lanes of traffic and scooped Miles into my arms. It was too late. A van honked its horn and sped towards us, the vehicle growing larger and larger in my vision. My mind went blank, I froze in place, unable to react. The poor child was trembling in my arms. I unhesitatingly turned my back to the oncoming vehicle. I thought, if only one of us could live, let it be him. As I closed my eyes, I was shoved forward by a powerful force. The sound of the car horn was piercing in my ears. I thought, with my eyes closed, damn. This earthly noise is annoying, but I won't have to hear it much longer. Too bad I haven't even graduated from college yet. I just topped up my card at the dessert shop next door. I hope I don't look too gruesome when I die, so Serafina and Kyler can still recognize me. I can't be with Kyler in this life. Will he marry that mayor's daughter who's chasing after him? What about Mom? She'll be even more heartbroken. Ugh. My mind was a mess. I'd even started thinking about where they should start with my autopsy. Until Miles's milky voice spoke. Big brother, why are you smiling? My tightly closed eyes trembled, slowly opening, meeting the clear gentleness and smile in Kyler's eyes. Before I could speak, he cupped the back of my head and gave me a long kiss. Older sister, I'm here. We sat there, face to face, on the elevated highway, our noses touching, staring into each other's eyes, smiling for a long, long time. The Ferris wheel spun round and round in the sunset behind us. If there were background music playing in the air at that moment, I think it would be Jay Chou's Superman Can't Fly. Saving the Earth is tiring, although I'm a little weary, I will still do it. My Superman smiles at me and says he'll always protect the world and this scaredy cat. The end.